Good morning, students. In this video, we are going to do the understanding explanation of our first story of the English book, and that is the Chief Seattle's speech. Now, when I'm saying about Chief Seattle's speech, it is not precisely we can call it as a story because it is moreover a speech. But this speech is important because it takes us back somewhere in 19th century when there was particular hostilities between the tribal people in America and the Seattle, and along with that they had their conflicts with the white. So here the chief of the tribal people is delivering a speech where he wants to have peace now. He greets them with good wishes, and he does accept that his people were weak and they died untimely, and there was somewhere their mistake also. But besides that, he says that no matter how much you try to remove us, and you might think you have removed us from this land, but at the end we will always remain in this land, because for you death might be a change of the world, where you leave this world and go to a totally different, through a portal you go to a totally different land. But for us, death is just a change of the realm. From the physical realm we go to the spiritual realm, and even when we change into go into our spiritual realm, we always are much attached to our land which once gave us existence, identity, and therefore because of that, we even in the quiet times of the evening we come back. Our people, ancient people, their spirits come back. They come back into this land or into this areas of where they had once lived in the spiritual form. And that is why if white people ever forget that we lived over here, then they should always remember that we are never going to leave this land. We will never be leaving them alone over here. Whenever in the most quiet area, the quietest of area, if they live over there, go to those places where it is really difficult to approach. Even in those areas, if they go, they might think they are all alone, but we, the red people, will always be there, and in multitudes in the spiritual form. So in this way he shows a positive an optimistic approach that they are always going to be there, and at the same time he does accept the approach of you can say request or the offer given to them by the white people, the big chief or the white chief. Here, when we are talking about Chief Seattle, first of all, it is very important that we should also know about the Chief Seattle. First of all, Chief Seattle was born somewhere in 1780 near the Blake Islands of Washington. He himself was a very tall fellow for his own tribe, and that is why he was also given a nickname as the Big Guy. And besides that, he was from the tribe he was the leader of the tribe because he was a very good warrior and he defeated many people. He himself had a lot of slaves from the different tribes that he had defeated, and later onwards he put up a fight against the white people also. But although his people were not that efficient enough or were not that successful while fighting against the British, or while we can say white people over here are British or Europeans who came to this land and gradually captured the land and even defeated these tribal people. He belonged to Squamish tribe. Remember, Squamish tribe, that is what he belonged to, and he was there fighting with the native rivals and the native tribes. That was easy for them, but this group of white people, or the white expeditioners, or the white people, those who came to capture this land, it was really difficult for his people to fight with them because they were the people who fought with spears and arrows, and these people who came there, they were fighting with cannons and you can say the guns. So because of that, they were no match for these people. So that is how they started losing their ground, and gradually they were left with very few in number. And there he is readily accepting that yes, it is all because of us that we lost this particular ground, or we lost our particular area. So here we will be reading about Chief Seattle's speech. What does he has to speak in his speech? Now it is going to be the explanation of the story with the text. I'll try to read it not very fast, but we do have to finish the story, although this one is not very long, but I'll try to keep up with the speed of text reading as well as explanation. Here today we might be able to do 1 or 1.5 page, or maybe 2 pages, 2 sides. Let's see how much we can finish. So here now you can sit with your storybooks, and I'll be reading the text also and explaining it to you as well. It says, "Yonder sky that has wept tears of compassion upon my people for centuries untold, and which to us appears changeless and eternal, may change. This sky which has always been there over us, and it has been sympathetic, it has loved our people, and for centuries it has remained over there. It seems changeless, but even," he says, Chief Seattle says, "even this sky might change someday. Today it is happy and a bright sky, but someday it might be cloudy, overcast, covered with the clouds. Clouds over here are symbolic to all the troubles and tribulations that might come for their people. Today is fair, tomorrow it may be overcast with clouds. My words are like the stars that never change. Whatever Seattle says, the great chief at Washington can rely upon with as much certainty as he can upon the return of the sun or the seasons." So he says the sky over here might change. Today it is fair, tomorrow it might be overcast, full of tribulations and things for us. But when he is saying something, that is the Chief Seattle is saying something, it is a word given to the white people, the big chief, and he can rely on it, he can depend on it with so much certainty and surety, as he can believe that every next day the sun will arise, or every particular time in the year at right time the seasons will come according to their time. So in the similar way, his words are going to remain there as long as he's there, that whatever he has said will be done in the similar manner. He says, the white chief says that big chief at Washington. White chief might have been a local chief over there from the white people, and the big chief is the real head of the white people who's at Washington. He sends us greetings of friendship and goodwill. So he's saying our local white chief has said that the big chief who's sitting over there in Washington, he is sending his greetings to us. That this is kind of him, for we know he has little need of our friendship in return. His people are many. They are like the grass that covers vast prairies. The vast grasslands in America are known as prairies. So he's saying it is so kind of the white chief or the big chief that he's still asking for our friendship, though he does not require it, because there are so huge number of white people that they can easily uproot us and kill us and throw us away. But still, if they are considering us, that is so generous of them, and that is why he's giving a comparison that your people are as huge or vast in number as the grass or the grassland in the grasslands, in the prairies, the number of grass. That many number of people, white people, are here now. And my people are few. They resemble the scattering trees of a storm-swept plain. My people are so few in number, like after a huge storm, a tornado, most of the trees are uprooted and just a few strong trees, old trees are left. Similarly, there are people like us, the young people, the people, those who are not very well rooted, they have all been uprooted and they have been killed. Only some few old people are left, and very few people, young people, are left, and that is the only number that they have left in their tribe, in their group. The great, and I presume good, white chief sends us words that he wishes to buy our land, but is willing to allow us enough to live comfortably. He says, now I have been informed that the white chief or the big chief in Washington, he desires that he wants to take more of our land, but he can very well capture it from us by killing all of us. Still, he has considered our identity, our people, and has shown some consideration by telling us to give that land to them, and still they'll be giving us a small piece of land where our people could reside comfortably. So they have considered this much for our people. This indeed appears just and even generous, for the red man no longer has rights that he need respect. He says, but even that much small piece of land that they are offering to us, even that appears to be a good deal and a generous deal, because red man no longer deserves any respect. Means we are so few in number, so less that hardly anybody can show any consideration for us, because we are that less in number that even if you don't show any consideration for us and simply kill us, nobody will be able to raise a question or say anything, because we are very, very less in number. And that is why he says that we do not even deserve any respect now. We are that few, and most of the people of our tribe, they died because of their own folly. And the offer may be wise also, as we are no longer in need of an extensive country. And he says, even from our side, this is a very good offer, because our people are so less that we don't even require the huge land area to live. That extensive land can easily be taken and occupied by the white people. They can thrive over there. Our people are so less that even if you give us a small piece of land, even that would be equally beneficial for us, because even there also we will be able to thrive and live properly, comfortably, whatever days we are left with. There was a time when our people covered the land as the waves of a wind ruffled sea cover its shell-paved floor. He says there was a time when we were so huge in number, like the waves which come near the seashore and cover the entire seashore, and all the shell-paved floor means the floor where all the shells are kept, they remain. So even those shell areas are all covered by water. That means that is how we came on this land, and we covered the entire area of this land. That was a time. But that time long since passed away, with the greatness of tribes that are now but a mournful memory. But he says all that time is gone. Now that is all, the greatness is all in the memories, because those tribes are long gone and they are just here in the memory. I will not dwell on nor mourn over our untimely decay. But he says, I am not going to sit over here and just cry on the untimely or a sudden decay or sudden end of our tribe, because I am not going to say that it is somebody else's fault. I would rather say I am not going to even scold anyone, nor reproach my pale-faced brothers. I'm not going to scold or blame my pale-face means the white people. The pale-face is basically the white people. I'm not going to blame it on the white people, the white brothers, with hastening it, as we too have been somewhat to blame. Because he says it is not only the white who came and killed them, but somewhere or the other we ourselves are also to be blamed for our untimely decay, for our untimely death. Because if they came over here, we were also not ready to have peace with them, rather we were always ready to fight against them. And because of our aggressive nature and the fights that we put up without knowing about our enemy, that led to our destruction. Youth, especially he's talking about the young people of his tribe. He says youth is impulsive. When our young men grow angry at some real or imaginary wrong and disfigure their faces with black paint, it denotes that their hearts are black. He says youth is impulsive. They take quick decisions. They get angry quickly. They are very nicely pacified quickly. Then they get into fighting quickly. So they are beyond control. And when they get angry on some of the some real or imaginary wrong. Why is it called imaginary wrong? They think that something wrong is happening, although it might not really be the same reason. So they think about it, or they believe it, or they imagine it, and for that particular wrong they paint their faces. Whenever a tribal, you must have seen tribal people, whenever they put up a fight, they usually put black marks on the or different paints on their face. That is the way of preparing for the war. Here it is the black marks that they put on their face. And he says whenever they painted their face black, it did not show that their face is black, rather it showed that their heart is black, full of anger, full of aggressiveness, full of fight. They are willing to kill and die and have all the feelings of a warrior. So it showed that their heart were also full of all death and destruction. They are often cruel and relentless. It shows that they are also at their heart, they are cruel, that they want to kill their enemy, the one who's coming, and that is why they were ready to kill their enemies. And because of that only, they did not think properly with all the wisdom and made silly mistake of fighting their enemies without even knowing the capabilities of the enemy. And our old men and old women are unable to restrain them. Our old people in the tribe, they were not able to stop our young men, they were not able to control our young men, and because of that, they ultimately went to the war and they died. Thus it was when the white man began to push our forefathers ever eastward. It has always happened that our people kept on fighting and the white man kept on defeating them and pushing our people back towards the western side. That means from the east they came, they started grabbing the place from the eastern part of our lands, and then gradually from eastern part they kept on moving towards west, and our people kept on moving back because they were defeated and they were killed. The young people had to meet their destruction. But let us hope that hostilities between us may never return. Now, this speech is given somewhere in 1854. So it is at that time believed that now the hostilities are little less. And he says, now I hope that this kind of hostilities between us, the red people and the white people, may never return. Let everything come to a better situation. We would have everything to lose and nothing to gain. We have nothing more to gain because we are not going to gain anybody else's land. Even if we defeat them, we will be gaining, or we will be getting our own land, which was always ours. And we have everything to lose means that we have our people who are going to lose their lives, and we will be losing more people in our tribe if the same hostilities come back. We will be losing our land, we will be losing our houses. So we will have everything to lose and rather nothing to gain. So that is why he says we don't want that kind of hostilities to come back between us red people and the white people. Revenge by young men is considered gain even at the cost of their own lives. So young men want to take revenge of the previous atrocities or killing or whatever has been done to their people by the white. They want to take revenge, and for that reason they are even ready to give away their own lives. But they don't realize how important their lives are now for the remaining people of the tribe, those who are the elderlies, those who are old people. Here he says, but old men who stay at home in times of war and mothers who have sons to lose know better. Those people, the elderly people, those who have already lost their children, the young men who were very impulsive and they wanted to get into fights and battles and killing, and ultimately they did get into the fight, but untimely had to meet their decay, had to meet their destruction. That means they were killed. Those elderly people, those mothers who have lost their children, young men, young boys, they are the ones, they know what loss is. The revenge and all this fight has not yielded any good to them, rather it has just made them get into more and more of loss. And that is why he does not want all these atrocities to come again between them and the white people, because he knows his people are less, white people are more, they are superior in their warfare techniques and tactics, and for that reason they are no match to their white oppositions. So that is why he does not want to get into any kind of such wars. Here we see in the coming paragraph that we'll be doing tomorrow. You can go through this first page with this explanation, you will understand it in even better. The second paragraph over here, he shows how white people had their God helping them always, and why and how white people's God cannot be the God of the red people, because if he becomes their God, he will have to save or see the you can say safety and betterment of the red people also, and for that he will have to save the red people from their enemies. And who are the enemies of the red people? Obviously the white people. That means white people's God, if he accepts red people as his own children, he will have to turn against his white children, his white people, and that he will never do because he loves his white children a lot. And that is how Chief Seattle shows the difference between the white and the red people, their God, our God, your rules and disciplines which were given to you by your God, and how the spirits of us, our culture, come and give us and guide us with all the things. You have the discipline written somewhere on the rocks, which is a part of reference given by the Bible, where God has given the 10 commandments. Here he is saying that our particular teachings and preachings are written on our heart, and we follow them in our life on day-to-day basis. So that is how we are different. Then he gives various other differences also in terms of death, and the old people, those who die, where they go, how they go, all those things that we'll be doing tomorrow, in the next coming up module. So with this, we come to the end of this session. I hope you will understand it. Please go through the chapter, read the chapter, and then we will continue later onwards in the next session. Have a great day.